Chazal tell us that Peischim b'chvod achsanya, that before you begin speaking somewhere, you should speak about the place that you are speaking in. So I don't really know is it Cha or Ha? The Hafi family. But if you're willing to open up your house on a Motzei Shabbos Kodesh, replete with a donut board and everything, means you cleaned up right away after Shabbos was over, you got the kids to sleep, and you made such a beautiful, beautiful Malava Malka, it already says a lot about the Mishpacha. So we just want to give you a bracha that your beautiful Bayis Neman B'Yisrael should always be filled with Torah, should always be filled with gatherings that are a chizuk for the Neshei Chayil of this wonderful community of Valley Village, North Hollywood, and you should continue and always have nachas from your children. Amen. I also want to express Hakar Satayv to the Achsanya, who is the Millman family, which goes back in our family over, 25, 30 years. My wife and Mrs. Millman's sister are best friends already from high school. So the Millmans and the Horowitzes know each other for a very, very long time. And when they moved to Los Angeles, I've been tracking and watching the course of all of their tremendous hatzlacha, their success, and what they've been able to accomplish. And I sit back and marvel about all of the growth and the siyata d'shemaya and the tremendous work that they're doing over here to really bring a ruach haTorah, a whole spirit of Torah and of mitzvahs to this community that never really existed before. Until there is a kollel that is in the center of a town, until there are men that are sitting and learning and wives that are kollel wives, the darga, the level of what we could accomplish in Torah and mitzvahs only reaches a certain point. Once you get to the kollel scenario, which means that there are people that are sitting and learning all day long, and the wives are supporting their husbands and taking care of their children and giving shiurim and opening up their homes and becoming friends with the women in the community, it takes it to a new level. And we hear all the way in Tarzana, we hear the ripple effect of the great things that are going on over here. And we wish our dear friends, Rabbi and Mrs. Millman, continued siyata d'shemaya in everything that they do. If you look in the Parshas HaShavua from the last couple of weeks, and we watch the Imaha, Yisah, Rivka, Rochel, Leah, especially if we look at last week's Parsha, where you find that Rochel and Leah seem to be in a tremendous battle constantly over their husband Yaakov Avinu. And in our Americanized minds of probably listening to too many love stories over the years, it looks very silly to us. You have the two greatest women in Klal Yisrael. You have the greatest man, the biggest tzaddik in the world, Yaakov Avinu. And these two women are having like cat fights over who is going to have Yaakov, who is his best wife, who does he love the most. So Rashi has to come to the defense of Rachel and Leah. And he has to teach us that they were doing exactly the opposite of what we would think these two women were doing. And Rashi writes, as we're watching the story evolve, and they both want to have children, they both want to have more and more and more. Rashi writes, Shaisa mis'ave umachzeres laharbais shvatim. Rachel and Leah were women that were not concerned with who is Yaakov's favorite wife. They were concerned with one thing and one thing only. Who is going to have the zechus to be marbeh, to bring more of the shift they call the tribes into this world? Because they understood that we're going to be Bnei Yaakov, we're going to be Bnei Yisrael. And all of the children that will become from Yaakov Avinu, they will be the future Dorei Doros of Klal Yisrael. They will be the generations that you and I and your children and all the children after you are going to be in their zechus. So what were they asking for? Not Chalila, some kind of wild fight between two wives that were jealous of each other. It wasn't jealousy. It was a burning desire to be the woman that is going to have the schos to bring the shvatim, the tribes, into this world. Because that is the way of the Neshei Chayil of Klal Yisrael for all generations, as we learn. A woman looks like she's so much in Olam Hazeh. She's worrying about donuts, she's worrying about cleaning the floor, changing the diapers, getting the kids off to school in carpool. She's worried about, should she go to Costco this week or Smart and Final? She doesn't know who has the better deals. She's late at night in the wee hours, Amazon.com, I need this drink for my son, I need these shoes for my daughter, I need this scrunchie for my other daughter. She's busy the whole night in Olam Hazeh. She's busy taking care of this world. But says Rashi, she has anything on her mind but Olam Hazeh, but this world. A woman's mind is on the nitzchios, on the eternal spiritual world of Klal Yisrael. When she looks at her children, though somebody once asked Rav Scheinberg, Zecher Tzadik Livracha, how do you know when it's okay to patch your child? So Rav Scheinberg answered the following. If you knew that your son was going to grow up to be the next Chavetz Chaim, and now he's 3 years old and he's driving you crazy. I'm not going to sleep. Yes, you are. No, I'm not going to sleep. Yes, you are. I'm not going to sleep. He's bouncing off the walls. He's hanging. You have good chandeliers to hang from over here. He's hanging from the chandeliers. He's climbing up the walls. He's making a mess. He's throwing a tantrum. And you're ready to bring that old patch. No, not today. You all young women over here. Patching, it's against the rules these days. But in the old days, when it was still okay once in a while, where the children wouldn't take your iPhone and steal it from you and call parent services over there and get you in trouble with the police, you were allowed to. But imagine, just imagine, said Rav Scheinberg, that kid that's driving you crazy, that makes you go to sleep and bury your head in the pillow and cry and ask Hashem, what did I do to deserve this? Imagine you knew he's going to turn out to be the Chavetz Chaim. Would you patch him so quickly? Would you get so angry? Would you be so firm and demanding from him? He's going to be the Chavetz Chaim. The mind of a woman, of a Jewish woman, is on nitzchios. She's not in Olam Hazeh. She's not right now in front of her what she's looking at. She's always looking for the ruchni, for the spiritual. She is the Ikeres Habayis. The Ikeres means she is the foundation of the entire house. It's not the Ikeres, not the Iker of what kind of a couch you're going to have, and if you're going to remodel the kitchen this year. And again, I was once at a fellow that he used to do remodeling. So he said, I want to show you the latest kitchen that I remodeled. So he pulls out his phone, he starts showing me a video. This is demolition. I said, but the kitchen is in such good shape. He said, yeah, they didn't like it anymore. So they're getting a new kitchen. The woman is the Ikeres Habayis, not in the Gashmias. The woman is the Ikeres Habayis in the Ruchnias. Can we trust your husbands to be the Ikeres Habayis of Ruchnias? And I mean nothing over here when I say these examples. I don't mean to insult anybody. I don't mean to make fun of anybody. I just want you to understand why you are so valued and treasured in Klal Yisrael. When you are making a Shalom Zocher Be'ez Hashem, you are thinking to yourself, probably what Chazal said, the baby comes into the world, why does he start crying? Say Chazal, because he's leaving the womb where he was learning with a Malach Hashem, and he comes into this big wild world called Los Angeles, California. He doesn't know what's going on. So to be menachem, to comfort the child by the Shalom Zocher, we come, everybody gathers together. We say Divrei Torah. People come, they give brachas. We sing beautiful nigunim. It's a ruchnius dika event. And I assume that most women, if you were able to be home for the Shalom Zacha of your son, you were able to appreciate that's the value of the Shalom Zacha. You know what? Many, I'm not saying your husbands, but many men are doing by the Shalom Zacher. Hey, look at this $500 bottle of schnapps. Look at these beers. I was once standing around two guys. You know how many cases of beer we went through by the Shalom Zacher the other night? And the sun is coming in and he's crying. You know why he's crying? He's crying because he left the world of Ruchnius inside his mother's womb. He left the Malach that learned Kol HaTorah Kula with him, and he comes into this world for what? For a $500, and that's cheap these days, bottle of schnapps that gets polished off in 15 minutes. L'chaim, l'chaim, l'chaim. Okay, get at the next one. Who is the Ikeres Habayis? The Ikeres Habayis, the master of the house. The one that's going to infuse it with ruchnias, with kedusha, with amunah, with bitachin. It's you. And we learn it out from our imahes. Because they are the ones that were focused not on the here and the now. They are the ones that were focused on the nitzchi, on the eternal future life of Klal Yisrael. I had the schus to learn in Ner Yisrael in Baltimore. And my Rebbe, Rabbi Berkowitz, when his mother was Niftera, she was an old baba, she was an old lady. She survived the war, they moved to San Francisco, which I'll speak about in a moment after the war. She raised her family in the end of her life, the last 6 or 7 years. She was living in her children's house in Yeshiva Lane in Baltimore. She was an old woman, she didn't speak English so well, everybody spoke to her in Yiddish in the house. When she was Nifteris, one of her grandsons spoke. And he told over the story of his Baba, of the grandmother. And he said she was in, I don't remember, Auschwitz, she was in one of the concentration camps. And the Nazis started screaming and yelling one morning, ringing the bell that there's going to be a selection. And all the women had to come out of the bunks and they had to stand there, and everybody knew that they were supposed to get shipped off at that time and they're going to end up somewhere, probably to their death. And this young woman who was in the death camps, who you could smell death everywhere that you looked around you, she hid herself under one of the beds. And she was lying under the bed as they're screaming, "Arise, arise, everybody out, everybody out." And she's davening one tefillah to Hashem. She said, "Please Hashem, please don't let them find me. Please let me live, and I promise you, if you let me live and you let me survive this Gehenna, I promise you, I will have children and I will raise them and I will have sons that will become Gedolei Torah, they will be masters of your Torah. Please, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, save my life." And somehow, B'derech Nes, the Nazis did not see this woman hiding under the bunk, hiding under the beds. The other women that got called out that day, they went to their deaths. She survived. After the war, she married. They ended up, of all places, in San Francisco. You thought LA was bad. Yeah. Because it was a natural place. It was a port city. So when the boats were coming back from Europe, they would board they would dock over there by the port. And there were many Yidden from the war that ended up coming there. There weren't yeshivas. There weren't shuls the way that we have shuls. There wasn't learning Beis Yaakov's, nothing. And they built from scratch. And when their son, Tzvi Berkowitz, was in 9th grade, they said, "You know what? We don't have anything left here to offer you." And with hearts that were hard to tear away, they sent him across the world to Baltimore. And he emerged after several years as being one of the Go'anim of the entire yeshiva. Eventually to marry the daughter of Rav Shmuel Kamenetsky, who is the granddaughter of Yaakov Kamenetsky. They raised an illustrious family with generations and generations of young men and women that are hoichei b'darchei Hashem because of the tefillas of a woman in the death camps davening for one thing: Nitzchias Hashem. It's not about the Gashmias. It's not about Olam Hazeh. It's not about what it looks like over here. It matters what is going to be with Klal Yisrael at the end of time. And I promise you, if you give me the schus, I will do my best to make sure that I will follow in the footsteps of Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, and Leah. We are coming to the Yom Tov of Chanukah. And I'm sure that you have heard this drilled into your head for 20, 25, 30 years since you are young children. Because as they always tell you that Yehudis was so courageous. Yehudis went in and she saw the enemy. She had this whole plan. She snuck in. She decapitates him. She takes his head out in the bag. Nobody even realizes. She hangs his head on the wall, and all the Jews see that Eliponi is dead. Wow! Klal Yisrael is going to be victorious. And when the Yevanim, when they see that, they're shocked out of their mind. They start running like with their tails between their legs because they realize that the time is over for them. All because of Yehudis, the valiant woman who found the courage within inside of herself to go and do something that even the men could not do. And if you study the Maisa, there's one sefer that we really have that's the authentic Jewish tradition of Chanukah, Megillas Antiochus. If you study the Maisa, the story over there, you'll see. She was a woman, she saw what was going on. She realized that the Greeks were horrible people. They're trying to destroy Klal Yisrael. And she wants to go and save our nation. But if you look carefully in Megillas Antiochus, it ends off the entire Maisa of Yehudis with one pasuk that has nothing to do with courage, has nothing to do with a sword, has nothing to do with her might, has nothing to do with her beauty, nothing. If you look at the story of Chanukah, as we all know, it was an attack on Ruchnius, it was not an attack on Gashmias. Every other nation that ever rose up against Klal Yisrael, they wanted one thing: kill the Jews. Get them out of this world. Extinguish them, exterminate them. We don't want them. From Bavel to the Romans to Hitler, Yamach Shemoy, everybody wanted the same thing. The world will be a better place without Klal Yisrael. Except Yavan. Yavan said, no, we are too cultured and we are too refined to be savage and come along and just wipe out all of the Jews. We're not violent people. We're not going to kill them. We have a much better plan. We will just rob them of their ruchnius. We'll reach deep inside the kishkas of the Jewish people. We'll rip out the Torah. We'll rip out their neshamas. We'll rip out their kedusha. And we'll tell them, you can stay in Eretz Yisrael. We won't even destroy the Beis HaMikdash completely. You can stay married to each other. You want to just become like us, but you don't have to marry us. Just become like us. You can't keep mitzvahs, of course. That's going to be against the laws. But at least you'll be able to live and to survive. And there won't be levayas one after the other. And many of the Jews were fooled by the Yevanim. And they became emes misyavnim. They became assimilated, they became involved and entrenched in their culture. They gave up Torah, they gave up mitzvahs. It was a haskalah like the world never saw before. Yehudis was a Jewish woman. The woman is the Ikeres Habayis. She thinks about nitzchir, she thinks only about what's the future going to bring. If all of Klal Yisrael is going to become misyavnim, and they're all going to assimilate and become like the Greeks, they're going to enjoy their culture, their sport, their art, their science. They're going to enjoy all their movies and their theater and everything else that comes along with it. And they're going to give up their connection to Torah and to Ruchnius. What's going to be with Klal Yisrael? How are we going to survive? If there's no Torah in our midst, so what that we will be alive physically, but if a Yid is dead spiritually, It's Ke'ilu, it's as if they're not even alive. Like it says in the Gemara, Yisraya b'loi Torah, a Jew without the Torah is kiguf, b'li neshama is like a body without the soul. So Yehuda said, I have to do something. This can't go on. But what could I, little Yehuda, what could I do to save Klal Yisrael? So she came up with a plan. An ingenious plan. She's like a Neviah, she's a beautiful woman, she's very attractive, she'll come inside, she'll become friends with Eli Porty. You imagine Rebbe Kanievsky going in to the battle camps of the Arabs over there behind the wall in Gaza. She just wants to become friendly with the leader of Hamas. Could you imagine such a thing? But she said, I don't have a choice. The only way I'm going to be able to execute this plan is if I do such a thing. So she goes with bravery, with courage. She risks her life. She comes up with a whole plan. And they fall for it. And then she gives him wine. Then she gives him cheese. He gets very thirsty. She gives him more wine, more wine, more wine. She plies him till he's drunk. It looks like he came back from Shalom Zach in North Hollywood. And then, when nobody's looking, she pulls a sword out of her bag. Swords, by the way, are very heavy. It's not like, your Cutco knife that you have over there that can cut through a bowling ball. This is a big sword like this. She pulls out the sword and with superhuman strength, she brings it down on the neck of this Rasha and she kills him. And then you get disgusted when you see your kid's finger bleeding. Okay? There's a headless man in front of her, and she takes the head as it's oozing blood, and she sticks it in her bag, and she goes running back to Klal Yisrael, and she says, look what I have. She holds it up with her own hands. And Klal Yisrael is saved. It was a turning point in the war for the Jews. The Yevadim realized that the Jews were serious over here. They're not giving in so fast. If even the women could do such a thing, imagine what's going to be. At the very end over there of this whole story of Yehudis, Megillas Antiochus quotes a pasuk. You would think it would speak about maybe Gibori Koyach, the warriors, the Ish Milchama, the woman of strength. No. Quotes the very end of Eishes Chayil, which I'm sure that you're all used to hearing so beautifully on Friday nights. The pasuk says, Sheker achein, chen, finding favor, beauty and the like, is sheker, it's false. Vehevel hayoifi, and beauty is nothingness. It's so transparent. And it so fades away. Isha yiras Hashem, but a woman who fears Hashem, he sees Hallel, she is the one that deserves praise. You heard it 1,000 times in your life. Do you ever think what it really means, what your husbands and your children are singing to you on Friday night? Says the Mitzudas David, the beauty, the physical beauty of a woman, or that she finds favor in the eyes of others because the beauty that she has, it's false and it's hevel, it is worthlessness. There's nothing there. Rotza loymar, what does that mean to say? Ein behem toeles rav ad lahalel. They have no great benefit that you should start praising the woman because she is attractive. You don't have your husband sitting around the table saying, I'm singing this song, Eishes Chal, because my wife is so beautiful. She goes to Pilates every day to make sure she looks good to me after having all these children. That's not what they're singing on Friday night. Your sons are not saying, wow, my mother, and I don't mean any offense over here, she just got the wonder wig. She looks unbelievable. That's not what your sons are singing about Friday night. Says the Metzudas David, there's nothing so redeeming about the beauty of a woman that a husband and a son should sit around at the Shabbos table and sing her praises. Aval Isha Yiras Hashem. But a woman who fears Hashem, Hi Aroi Lahalulu Bazeh, that is what makes her worthy of being praised. On that, says Megillas Antiochus, that's why we praise Yehudis, not because she was mighty, not because she was strong, not because she was courageous. She was. But the defining midah that she had behind everything was she was an Isha Yiras Hashem. And that is the greatest praise. That is the greatest adjective. That is the greatest Hallel, gratitude that we can give to our women of Klal Yisrael. That they are working on their Yiras Shemayim, because that is the nitzchias. That is the nitzchias of Torah, of our families, of Klal Yisrael, of our Kodesh Baruch Hu, crowning this world with His glory. Women are very busy. I know that. I see from my wife, women are very, very busy. You're busy doing a lot of things. You're changing diapers, you're cooking meals, you're taking care of kids. But every woman knows that she finds time to do other things as well. Amazon probably is being run by Klal Yisrael's, the frum world. Zappos, yeah. They know you by name already? Oh, it's you again? Yeah, I didn't really like that shoe. It wasn't my style. Yeah. We find time for so many things. We find time for shopping. We find time to take care of our hair. We find time to take care of our beauty. Always the cosmetics and this, all the different things that are going on. No, I'm not knocking it. It's a good thing. You should look attractive to your husbands. You should look fine to them. It's a very important thing. But you have to think to yourself the following. As much time that you are spending on the Chen and the Yofi, which the pasuk from Shlomo Melech is saying is Sheker and Hevel. How much time is a woman today in North Hollywood, California, Valley Village, I wouldn't insult anybody, in Valley Village, California, how much time is she spending on developing her Yiras Shemayim? Friday night, when you sit down by the table and you come in with your hair all blown dry and your makeup and your nice Shabbos begadim, which you should 100%, and you spend time at the store and you went over here and you bought this and that and all the things, hours and hours and hours were spent. How much time did you spend that week preparing yourself with Yiras Shemayim? Does anybody still learn besides these wonderful get-togethers with donuts on the wall? Do you learn every day? Do you have a sefer that you're learning in Musar every single day of your life? Even if it's 5 minutes. The Ramchal, Silas Yesharim, maybe Rav Dessler speaks to you, maybe Chovos Halevavos, maybe everything that we could possibly want to learn in Hebrew that we don't do so well in Hebrew. There's English translations of almost every single book under the sun these days. Do you spend a few minutes every day learning things that will increase your Yiras Shemayim? Just because you watched the 1 minute and 13 meaningful minute for the day doesn't mean that you learned Yiras Shemayim. Now, I'm just saying this because I'm jealous they didn't put me on the meaningful minute. But I'm being serious. I'm being serious. While you're driving in the car and your kids are screaming behind you, no, just wait a second, Shevel, I just have to hear what he has to say over here. You're not working on your Yiras Shemayim. Yiras Shemayim takes work. That's why it's praiseworthy. Things that come naturally. You're a beautiful woman because Hashem made you that way. Baruch Hashem, thank the Ribbono Shel Olam. You put on a little makeup and your husband, you find chen in his eyes. Baruch Hashem, thank the Eibishter. Person buys a new outfit and their husband actually notices this time. Unbelievable. Thank your husband that he finally opened his eyes and noticed something. But that's all just transient things that are not going to last forever. I once went to a shiva house, and the woman was, I don't know, she was in her 80s or 90s when she was nifteris, and the family was not frum. So they have pictures, I don't know why they had these pictures there, of the woman from when she was like a teenage girl at the beach. Okay, interesting picture to have when you walk into a shiva house. Why did they put that picture there? Because they wanted to show you the chen and the yofi of this woman. They wanted to show once about you remember as this pruny old lady with her arms hanging down to over here. That's how you remember her. But you should know, once upon a time she was 17 years old. She was like a model on the beach over there. Look how beautiful she was. Says Shlomo HaMelech, that's not beauty. That's sheker and that's hevel. You know what the real beauty is? When you're an old baba. You're 93 years old and you're sitting there surrounded by your children, your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren, your great-great-grandchildren. And you're in a wheelchair and your little grandson who's 10 years old is pushing you in the wheelchair and you come into your 93rd birthday party and everybody says surprise. And the room is filled with Torah Yidden who are going in the ways that you set out for them. And you sit there, everybody I'm sure saw this picture, it was a few years ago. There was this woman who survived the concentration camps. And her wish when she turned like 100 years old was to meet with her family by the Koisel, everybody, all of her descendants. There was hundreds of descendants for this woman. And she's sitting there in a wheelchair like a queen, like a princess, shining like a light. There's nothing more beautiful than that. It's not the sheitel, it's not the shoes, it's not the designer sunglasses to make sure you don't get wrinkles and crow's feet in your eyes. That's sheker. That's hevel. The real yofi, the real beauty which deserves praise, is the yiras shamayim, is the fear of heaven that you have. Yira means not to be trembling and walking around all the time. Yira is an awe, a reverence, an appreciation, a knowledge that there's a Ribbono Shel Olam and everything that I do makes a difference. How I talk, what I say, Tisha Kavin of Sicha. Chazal do not exaggerate. There were 10 measures of speech that came down to the world. 9 of them went to the women. You are 9 times more likely to speak Lashon Hara in your life than your husband ever will. Because you just know how to talk. That means you better be learning the laws of Lashon Hara 9 times more than the average man. And that's Yiras Shamayim. Because if Hashem gave you the gift of gab, then you better learn how to use it in the right way as well. And the only way is to chazer and to learn the halachas again and again and again and again. That's Yiras Shamayim. When you make a siyum on Sefer Chavetz Chaim, and again, like I said, there's so many prints in English now, all different ways that they teach it. When you complete that Sefer Chavetz Chaim, and you got a chizuk in the laws of Shmiras Haloshin, and you now know better what you could say and what you cannot say, and you saved yourself even one time from speaking Lashon Hara. The Vilna Gaon says you cannot imagine the reward that is waiting for a person who is Ba'alem Piv, who closes their mouth from saying one word of Lashon Hara. It's greater than the malachim, the angels could envision. The spiritual rewards waiting for that person in the world to come. Are you learning Hilchos Lashon Hara? Or are you so expert in the laws of Lashon Hara already, you don't have to learn it? You get calls about shidduchim. Probably your references on people's things. Do you know what you're allowed to say, what you're not allowed to say? Do you know how many shidduchim have been killed? Killed! Because somebody who thought they were just being a nice person said over something that wasn't so favorable about the person they were called about. They said, no, forget it. It's not for us. Maybe it was their zivug. Maybe they were supposed to get married. Learning Hilchas Lashon Hara is Yiras Shamayim. A little bit of Musar every day, 5 minutes. Take a sefer. Take something that talks to you. Find something. Rav Shimshon Pincus has beautiful, beautiful svarim. They translated them into English. He has one sefer. It's all for women, to give them a chizuk, to be a better woman in Klal Yisrael. A little bit every day. What do you have to lose? So you'll spend 5 less minutes watching your favorite TikTok videos. You won't lose out. You won't review that WhatsApp video that your friend sent you for the 13th time today because, no, I'm busy right now. I have to learn a little bit. But I have no time. I know we have no time for anything. I was once in a minyan, not in North Hollywood, someplace else in Los Angeles. And I noticed that the guy that's standing next to me, he's like such a rush to get out of there. You know, so you don't know because you're not there, but sometimes these guys are in such a rush, they just cannot wait to get out of there. He's already taking off his tefillin as early as he possibly can. Later, he's out the door. I thought, wow, maybe he's like a paramedic, maybe he's a doctor. He has some emergency he must be running to. He's such a rush today. I go afterwards to stop at a bakery to get something, and I see the guy who's in such a big rush. He's standing there with another one of his fellow friends, with his cigarette, his coffee, and his donut, and they're just schmoozing away. The guy that's running out of davening because he has no time to daven to HaKadosh Baruch Hu has plenty of time in his life to schmooze away over a coffee and his cigarette, while his wife is probably going crazy at home trying to get the kids out to school. We have no time, but somehow for the things that are important to us, we have all the time in the world. We have all the time to go shopping. We have all the time to be on Amazon late at night. We have all the time to talk to this one and to watch this video and all these things. We have all the time. But a little bit of Yiras Shamayim. When was the last time you picked up a sefer? Come on, be honest with yourselves. When was the last time you picked up a sefer and you learned? When was the last time you went to a weekly shir, kavua, every week? Whether it's on Chinuch Habanim, whether it's on Shalom Bayis, whether it's on Tznius, whether it's on Lashon Hara. When was the last time you went to a shir every single week? Not since you're in seminary. That's Yiras Shamayim. HaKadosh Baruch Hu Shlomo Melech says over here, the greatest praise that we can give to a woman is not the beauty. You think about it. The Gemara says that the Imahos and Esther Malka and some of the other Nevios, the Vora, they were the most beautiful women in the world. Why did HaKadosh Baruch Hu make it? The Gemara says by Esther HaNeviah, Esther Malka, she was so beautiful that she was Matzachein be'enei kol ha'olam. She found favor in the eyes of all of the world. Whoever looked at her, she looked like a beautiful woman from that country. So if somebody from Zimbabwe was standing in front of Esther Malka, she looked like the most beautiful Zimbabwe princess. Somebody from Puerto Rico was standing there, she looked like some Miss Puerto Rico. If everything that we're saying is true, that it's not about the beauty, that's all sheker, that's all hevel. It's not about the gashmis, it's not about how you look, it's all about what's on the inside. Why did HaKadosh Baruch Hu make the most beautiful women in the world of Klal Yisrael the most chashuv people also? It's irrelevant. Because that's exactly what the Torah is telling us. That as beautiful as Rachel and Leah and Sarah and Rivka were, as beautiful as Devorah was, as beautiful as Esther was, as beautiful as they were, they did not get sidetracked and lured in to the physical world of beauty that they had. On the other hand, they went straight into the world of Nitzchius, into the world of Kedusha, into the world of Amunah, into the world of Torah. Because they realized that's, as the Metzudas David says, that's what's fitting to praise a woman about. Chanukah is around the corner. Chanukah is the time that we remember the Maisa Yehudis. And we don't remember, as it says, her valiancy and her courage. We remember that she was Sheker Hachein V'chevel HaYoifi, Isha Yiras Hashem. He sees halal. That's what we remember. And therefore it's a time, as those candles are burning, and the latkes are frying in the kitchen, and the kids, Baruch Hashem, are all home from school early. Get some more time with them. Let them observe their mother during Hanukkah as a real Eishes Chayil. Let them hear you say something by the table that smells a little bit like Yirah Shamayim. Let them hear it, let them see how excited you get when Yankala comes home from school with all of his projects about the menorah and the Maccabees and all of the might and the strength of Klal Yisrael fighting against the Yevonim, which was against the Ruchnius. Let you then see how excited you get. Tell them a story from your family. Some of you probably come with amazing, amazing maisim from the Babas and the Zaydas who went through horror stories. But picked themselves back up after everything was said and done, and they became ehrlich people in the world, and you're here because of them. Let them see the Yirah Shamayim of their mothers. Let them know what it means to be an Eishes Chayil. Let them see that you're working on yourself, you're growing. Let them find your sefer lying or on the table, and they'll say, Mommy, what is that? I'm learning. You're learning, Mommy? Yeah, I'm learning. I started learning something I want to become better. I want to work on my midos. I want to have more. I want to daven better. Does anybody still daven? Yeah. Remember when you were like 16 years old? In Beis Yaakov, the joke is that, I don't know if they did this all over the world, but in Beis Yaakov here, they like to stick the siddur to their eyeballs. And then they like shake back and forth like this. They call out salah sometimes. It's so dangerous over there. Remember those days when you used to daven with kavanah? You used to daven with feeling, with meaning. Remember that when you first got married and you were so grateful to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and you woke up in the morning and Hashem, thank you. And you were davening and davening and davening, Shachris, Minchas, some of your big tzidkonios, Maariv also. Then Baruch Hashem, you have one child, you have another one, Bli Ayin Hara, pulling on your skirt as you're trying to... Oh, I can't daven anymore, okay. I heard, the Rambam says if you just say, Hi Hashem, how are you? That's good enough. Chanukah is lahaydais ulahalel. Lahaydais, to give gratitude, ulahalel, and to praise Hashem. How does everybody give lahaydais ulahalel? You daven to the Rebbeinu Shalom. Why not trying to be mechazik? One word of tefillah. Not a whole Shmoneh Esrei, one word of tefillah over Chanukah. Whether it's an Al Anisim, whether it's the first bracha Shmoneh Esrei, whether it is Maida Ani Levanecha, before the kids are sitting on your head when you wake up in the morning, you get it out of your mouth with a little bit of kavanah. How about that? That's Yirah Shamayim. That is going in the ways of Yehudis. That's going in the ways of the Imahos who didn't live for Olam Hazeh, for this world down here. They were living for the nitzchius of the world to come. They wanted to see all of the hard work, all of the planning, all of the efforts. They wanted to see it living on. Dores, generation after generation after generation. Trust me, you cannot trust the men for this. They are so busy with everything going on, money and business and booze and that and the shoes and the belt with somebody else's name on it. You're going to trust them for the nitzchias of Klal Yisrael? The Gemara says, B'schus noshim tzidkoniyos nigalu aveiseinu mimitzrayim. In the merit of the righteous women of Klal Yisrael, we were redeemed from Mitzrayim. U'b'schus noshim tzidkoniyos nigalu liyosid lavoi. The future Geula is going to come through you as well. Why not through the men? Guys sitting and learning kollel all day long. Kids are sitting and learning in Shiva. The guy's writing beautiful checks for tzedakah. Why not through him? Because he's got so many other things going on in his life. Hashem says, I trust the women with their bini yisera and their big neshamas that they have to go in the right way. They saved us in Mitzrayim, they'll save us from Valley Village also. They saved Klal Yisrael from the impurities of Mitzrayim, they'll save us from the impurities of America as well. Because by working on your Yiras Shamayim, little bits, 5 minutes a day, one little tefillah a day, one midah perhaps that you're working on that you know that you abandoned for so long. That's the greatest schus that Klal Yisrael will have. And as we want to become the warriors for HaKadosh Baruch Hu during this Hanukkah, we want to emulate the ways of Yehudis and all that she stood for. The only way to do that is to be a woman that is truly worthy of Hallel, of praise, and that's with the Yiras Shamayim. I want to leave you on with one Maisa. I know the hour is getting late and there's a lot of donuts that have to be eaten still. You'll take it home to your husbands. When they're running out of shul tomorrow, they'll have it with their coffee. There was a Rav by the name of Mordechai Rogau. He's a Rosh Hashiva of the Beis Midrash LaTorah of Skokie, Illinois. Mechaber Seif, he wrote Svarim also. Very big tzaddik, very choshev Talmid Chacham. As he was getting older and older and advanced in his years, so the people that were closest to him who thought that he would begin to slow down, they saw that his health wasn't 100% anymore. Older people usually do less than they do when they're younger. They noticed that Reb Mordechai, not only did he not slow down, it seemed that he was doing as much as he possibly could. Whenever he could give a shir, he gave a shir. Whenever he was learning, davening was davening. Yiras Shamayim, whatever he was able to be involved with for the yeshiva, for Avodas Hashem, nothing slowed him down. So he had a very good friend, Rav Hertzman, and Rav Hertzman said to him, Reb Mordechai, I just would like to suggest that perhaps as you're getting older and on with years and your body's slowing down, it's clear to all of us, maybe you should begin to slow down a bit. Probably be better for your health. And he said, and if you can't, he says, I just need to ask you, how is it that in this advanced stage in your life, you never seem to slow down with anything? So Reb Mordechai told him the following. When I was a bacher learning in the Mir Yeshiva, not in the Mir Yeshiva in Eretz Yisrael, but in the Mir Yeshiva in Poland, in Europe, I was from a group of bachrim that got very close to the Mashgiach Rabbi Yerucham Levovitz. Rabbi Yerucham would come and give a shmuz. He would give shmuzim in the yeshiva every week. But there was a special group of us that we had a private shir with him once a week in his house. And in that shir, he would come and he would say over Yesoida, such basics and foundations and wisdom of Torah. It changed our lives, that shir. One week we go to his house. We're sitting at his table, waiting for him. And it was a beautiful spring day. And we were enjoying the fresh air that was blowing in through the windows. And he was a little bit later than usual. Now anybody who knew Rabbi Yerucham, he was always on time. Rabbi Yerucham was by the book. He was so careful with everything. And he was running a little bit late. And Rabbi Yerucham walked into the house finally. And it was clear to all of us that he was very agitated about something. Now Rabbi Yerucham was known also, the man was a master of self-control and of midos. He was a calm, even-tempered individual. He didn't raise his voice even when he spoke. He was known to give drashas like this. He didn't get dramatic. He didn't tell fascinating stories that would make your hair stand on end. He would talk like this because he wanted the Bachrim to hear every word that he said. And he wanted them to hear the quality of the words, not to be distracted by the delivery. So Rabbi Yerucham walks in late. And Rabbi Yerucham walks in agitated. They were concerned that something must be wrong. And Rabbi Yerucham walks in. And he looks at all these boys and they're looking at him. They stand up, Rebbe. And they see that he wants to say something. And suddenly he cries out, I'll say it in Yiddish and then I'll translate it. And he says, Ich bin jetzt gekommen from the gas. I just came in from the street. Und ich say, as alles wächst, everything in the street right now is growing. It's springtime. The flowers are growing, the plants are growing, the trees are growing, everything is growing. And then Rabbi Yerucham roared at these Talmidim and he said, For was wächst ihr nicht? How come you're not growing? A bug can grow, a plant can grow, a flower can grow. Why aren't you growing? And he said they were stunned in silence. And those words were just hanging in the air in that room. Why aren't you growing? Said Rav Mordechai Rago, it's 50, 60 years after that experience. Every time I start to slow down in my life, every time I think about not doing what I should do, every time I'm about to slip up perhaps in something, I hear the roar of Rabbi Yerucham saying, why are you not growing? And that's why I can't stop. And that's why I keep going. And that's why I find the koiches inside of myself to keep pushing myself, even though, yeah, you're right, I'm older, I'm slowing down, I can't slow down. Because if I slow down, I'm going to stop growing. And Rabbi Yerucham's message when I was a young man was, why aren't you growing? I assume that if you're coming to a kollel event, this is a room filled with women that are growing. There's a lot of other places you could be, Motzei Shabbos, or Saturday night, as they say in America. But you decided to be Mekadesh, your Motzei Shabbos, with a shir, and with chizuk, and thinking a little bit about increasing the Yirah Shamayim in your life. Because that's what the Ribbono Shel Olam wants, because after 120 years, when they will come to your Shiva house, Chalila, that there will be a picture of you when you were 16 years old, at your sweet 16. Or there's a picture of you as a kala under the chuppah, looking with googly eyes at your husband over there, looking so young. They're going to have a picture of you, the Baba, 120 years old, wrinkles from head to toe, with all those orthopedic shoes that are this thick on the heels, surrounded by your children, your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren, your great-great-grandchildren, and all the nitzchis, all the generations that are going to come from you. May you be zeicher to find the strength and the courage of the Neshei Chayil of all generations inside of yourself with all of your busy schedules. I know that you're busy. I know that you have a lot going on. Everybody knows that. But for the things in life that are important, there's always extra time that you can find. There's nothing more important than growing every single day of your life. May you be Zeichem Yitz Hashem through the Yom Tov. You have to start now. Don't wait till Hanukkah. Okay, when Hanukkah. No, don't wait. Start tonight. Go to your house, look on your shelf, find a sefer that you can learn. Go, art school is having the massive Hanukkah sale of the year. Find something that speaks to you. Now, when you go onto artschool.com, don't start looking at all the other things that are on the computer. Don't just go and find a book that speaks to your heart and your soul and start growing more than you're growing now. If you do that, it'll be the happiest Hanukkah of your entire life. It'll truly be lahaydais ulahalel, and you will be Isha hitis alel. You will be the woman that your husband and your children, and most importantly, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu will praise.